Hello, mentors, and welcome back to part two of meeting number 8. This activity is called Your Dream City. In this activity, students will be creating their own cities. There will be 5 categories. Safety, which measures in general how safe the city is. Nature, how vibrant and connected to the city is to nature. Freedom, in which people have the ability to express their opinions and disagreements. How teen friendly it is, which is opportunities for teens to have fun, go out and do stuff. And another category that you can make up. The purpose of this is for students to figure out what they value as a team and create their own city, which will be a lot like the radar charts that we just looked at for the forms of transportation. Before we get started, there are a few rules to keep in mind. The first rule, each category starts with 3 points. This gives us a minimum bar so that everything is filled in at least a little bit. Second rule, you will roll 5 dice. You can only re-roll the lowest one. You will choose where to add the points to each category. And pass your city after this, you will pass your city to the right, and a new mayor will then subtract 1 point from one of the category they're choosing, and subsequently add two to another. This just gives some variety and some difference. And then we will be graphing the radar charts. How to connect these. Once you have the values for each category, we want to plot the points on our radar charts that you will have from at your table. Once you have all of the points plotted, you can then draw the lines to connect them. And remember, like we talked about last meeting, these lines aren't super important, but in general, we want them to have a sort of curved shape to them. And just make sure it makes sense. There aren't lines jumping out everywhere. Mentors, you can be sure of that with your students. And then we will share the results and discuss the values of your cities. Before we get into a few examples of our own, let's look at some examples that that Andres made for us. First, we have Tokyo. As we can see, the categories are cheap, teen-friendly, culture, freedom, nature, and safety. We see that Tokyo is a 10 for teen-friendly and a 10 for safety. But that means it has to give up some elsewhere. So let's see where that happens. Cheapness, it's only a 5. So Tokyo is pretty expensive, we can deduce. Culture, only a 4. This would make sense because the city's very big, a lot of business stuff going on, not as much room for culture, and whatnot. Freedom, a 7, and nature, 5. Similarly, San Francisco has the same categories, and we see it's spread out a little bit differently. For example, freedom, a 10, culture, a 10, cheap, a 1. That would make sense because San Francisco is arguably one of the most expensive places to live. So hopefully you're getting an idea of how this works. If not, here are 2 more examples. We see Singapore has the same categories, and it's spread out kind of nicely like a little bow. We have culture at a 10, nature at a 10, safety at a 10, teen friendly at a 9, but then cheapness and freedom are both very, very low. Similarly, Shanghai spread out in a different way. Take a moment to look at how that works. So hopefully you have an idea now of how this works. And now we're going to do an example of our own. So how this works is we will first designate 5 categories. We are told to have safety, nature, freedom, and teen friendly, and one of our own. For this example, we're going to have culture. So first, we are going to roll a dice. All right. So we get a 2, a 5, a 5, a 5, and a 4. So that was our 5 rolls. We had 3 5s, 1 4, and 1 2. We get to re-roll the lowest, so let's re-roll the 2. We got a 2 again anyway. So let's keep that. And now we designate. So each category starts with 3, and then we are going to add the points respectively to where we want to. So first, we note that we have 3 5s to place. And basically, you and your team are going to decide what you value the most. So for this example, I'll add 5 to culture, 5 to safety, and 5 to freedom, because me personally, I value those a little more than the other 2. Nature, I'm going to add a 4 to, and then teen friendly, I'll add a 2 to, because I think these categories are a little more important than that. But since this is a very subjective activity, you and your team can come up with wherever you'd like to place these. So now we see that culture is an 8, teen friendly, 5, freedom, 8, nature, 7, and safety, 8. Now with your teams, you will then go and plot these over here. So, if we recall, we had safety over here at an 8. So let's put a little dot there. And then we go back. We have nature at a 7. So that'll be roughly in the middle right here. And then we keep doing this process and just keep filling out this chart at the respective locations. So for example, freedom, we found was going to be an 8 for us. Teen friendly was not as important to me, so we gave that one a 5. And then the last category, once again, an 8. And we designated this category to be culture. So you and your team can come up with whatever category you want that last one to be. In this case, it was culture. And then I would draw lines kind of along these little concentric circles that they already have driven, or already have drawn, and we will just connect the lines, and that will make our own dream city with our radar chart. And what you do next is you take this, what you made, and before you draw the lines to connect it, you're going to pass it to the right to a different team. Another team is going to add 2 points to one category and subtract one from the other. So let's say this other team decides that safety is not as important to them, and they want to move that one down point. So they can move it down to 7 like that. But then they think team friendly is much more important than I did. So then they'd move this from a 5 to, say, a 7, just like that. And then we will redraw the lines from there. So hopefully this is starting to make sense. We'll do another example now. For this example, we have the same first 4 categories, and this time, gender equity. So again, each category start with 3 points, and then we will begin to add onto those, whatever we roll. So let's go back here. Oh, one moment. There's an add. All right. And now we roll again. 2, 6, 6, 6, 1. So we want to re-roll the 1. We got a 6. That's really good this time. So we got 4 6s and 1 2. So I start designating where I want my 6s. And let's say, for example, this team decides they want to be a very bustling city with lots of busy streets and whatnot. So they think nature deserves the least amount of points. So then we have our totals to be 9, 5, 9, 9, and 9. And then we go over here, and once again, we start adding all of these shapes and plot our points. So if you're a little confused on how to add the points, you can see that the numbers are labeled evenly. So each new circle, each dot that lies on a circle is actually 2 points. So there will be a total of 10 circles along the main circle, but um, the ones that lie on these little circles count by 2s. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. And if not, your mentors should be able to help with that, or your LAs, depending on who is helping you with this activity. So again, once we have our chart, we will pass it to the right, and then people will move it again. So since only one of these categories can add 2, it might be who of whichever group to add 2 to that category. So we'll add 2 to nature. And then they're going to decide which of these categories is the least important to them, or in general, which one they want to change. And they will then add or take one away from there. So let's say that they think teen friendly is not very important. Then they're going to move that from a 9 to an 8. And then this is our new chart. Again, we pass it back to the original team, and then they will connect it, just like all the other radar charts. So hopefully this is all making sense, and good luck and have fun. Thank you.